Hey there. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Unsecurity Podcast. This is episode 117. The date is February 2nd, 2021, and I'm your host, Evan Francine. Joining me, good friend, pal, security expert, awesome guy, Brad Nye. Hi, Brad.
Hello, Evan. It's
That's
good
two
to.
weeks in a row we've had trouble getting like the initial, like the first sentence out of the.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm glad I'm not the only one struggling.
Mm-mm. So today, some things I'd like to talk about. I'd like to talk about privacy. Just this thing people say sometimes, privacy is a right, right? It's your right. Privacy is a right. And, let's talk about whether that's actually true. And if it were true, would you be able to get it back? Because I think we all agree your privacy is pretty much gone.
Mhm.
So I'd like to talk about that. And then I'd like to talk about burnout. I'm writing a blog post, sort of this morning about burnout, and then we can get into some news. So I have an audio that I'd like to share with the audience. Pretty interesting scam audio that I was impressed by it. But before we get to that, we always catch up. How you doing?
Good, good overall. As we were talking before, this is 2 weeks in a row because of the switch. We did recorded Wednesday, and I forgot to set the alarm, and then I totally spaced and set the wrong alarm last night. And so yeah, not fully awake yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can see my eyes, but they look kind of glossy. Like
Yeah,
maybe I didn't sleep at all.
there you go. But no, it's been good. We talk about it's been what we're at 10 and a half months into this. And I finally was like, all right, I got to do something. So I got myself a Fitbit, trying to be a little bit
Ah,
healthier. And it's, I'll say this, my steps and all that aren't as bad as I thought they would be. They're not good, but it's not nearly as bad.
well, that's
But
good, man.
yeah, it's tough to get, you realize it like when you're home basically all day and it's winter out here in Minnesota. So it's tough to get steps in. You have to be like consciously aware of it and make an
Yeah.
effort.
Uh, yeah, exercise hasn't been top of my list. I don't think. I mean, it should be. Holy crap! But
Well, and
yeah,
yeah, and the other, I've only been clear of the dizziness and all that for 2 weeks. So I had 2 months there where I really
mm,
couldn't do a whole lot.
mm,
But
yeah. I think work has been dominating. I told my wife that it was going to be this way, though. We came back from Cancun, and then we're actually leaving in a couple of days for a real vacation this time. Uh, but I told her for the next 17 days. That's how many days there was between that and when we're leaving again. That I'm going to work like all the time. So just warning you. And she signed off on it, maybe reluctantly, but here we are, and I've only got a couple days left, and I don't think I probably got maybe 4 hours of sleep last night. I finished up I finished up some spec stuff for Security Studio, and yeah, it keeps you up late.
yeah, yeah, I've been so speaking of security studio, I've been working on the our IR maturity assessment and then that CMMC stuff. So writing it and creating it in a way that should be pretty easy to ingest for security studio.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I found a database. There's a database on our group. The Security Studio Partner Community group.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't realize that they have a database there. So I created a bunch of tables. I created a table for CMMC. I created a table for CIS. I created a table for other things where we could put things and share them out with the partner community as we're building.
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be very cool.
Yeah, I sort of stumbled on that. All right, so today is it Tuesday? It's garbage day, so I got to get the garbage out. Unless my
Well,
wife did it.
yeah, you
So,
should probably do that.
yeah, that's one thing I noticed. I only have three people who live in my home now. It's me, my wife, and my youngest. And I'm amazed at how much garbage we create. I'm like, what the hell do we buy?
Dude, I was I like have to take out the trash like daily out of the kitchen. It's like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Where everything's got packaged and double packaged, and
Hmm.
some things I can't even open. Man, I go to the convenience store or gas station and get like a you know beef jerky or beef stick, and I can't even get the damn thing open. Do you ever run into that?
Oh yeah, it's like what the yeah. I shouldn't need like scissors and like surgical scalpel
No.
to get into the food.
Right. Yeah, and I'm buying it because I'm like, you buy that rush kind of like,
Oh,
I
I'm
want
so
this beef stick and I want it now. Yeah, because I'm hungry as hell. And I get into my truck and I'm like, the hell I can't open the fucking, oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know why we
yep.
do that, but we do. All right. So here's an email I want to share first before we dig into everything else. Just a voicemail that I got. I think it was last week. And the reason why I want to share it is I think our listeners might be impressed with the quality of the scam voicemail.
All right.
Now, yeah, thankfully this voicemail went to me. I'm a CEO of a security company, so if I fall for it, it's like, I mean, that's about as embarrassing as it gets, I think. So thankfully I didn't. I took the voicemail, I shared it with our customer, who's actually referenced in this voicemail,
Hmm.
and the text I got back was it had expletives in it, so I'm not going to share it. But he was very surprised. So then I took it around and shared it with our ELT, our executive leadership team, just being like, "Hey, FYI, this is a scam voicemail that I got." And the cool thing is, I got like three texts after I sent it to our ELT about, "Hey, did you just send me an email? Is, is this a phishing email?" So that was a good sign when you have
Yeah,
executives uh, questioning that.
dude, I would say our executives are probably more on top of that stuff than just about anyone else, which is really cool. And they want to learn about it.
Yeah,
That's what's so cool.
right, right. All right, so it's a minute long voicemail. I'm going to go ahead and play it here. Uh, Share this. All right, here we go.
Hello, Evan. My name is Angela, calling from JP Morgan on behalf of your customer health on a recorded line. Health would like to change their payment method to FR Secure LLC and ask that we reach out with the details. If you could, please return my call at your earliest convenience at 877 and please reference the number 1491737. I thank you for your time and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a great day.
Hmm. That yeah, wow.
Pretty good, huh?
I think the big surprise I think the big give is like the cadence is off.
Right.
You can just it just very halting and just not quite right, but wow, that's actually really good. You're right.
Well, it's good and it's accurate, right? I mean, she sounded very, professional. It did sound like,
Sounded like a
something.
banker.
Yeah, it didn't sound, foreign, from a foreign country. It referenced, JP Morgan. It referenced a reference number. It referenced a callback number.
Yeah.
Our rule of thumb, never ever give out sensitive information on a phone call or any communication that you didn't initiate.
Right.
So in this case, I didn't initiate this phone call. They did, but you left a voicemail with a number. So then I'm not invalidating my rule of thumb by calling you back and giving sensitive
Well,
information. You know what I mean? So it violates that
I
rule of
think,
thumb.
yeah. Well, for me, if I were to get that, I would have gone like online to find a number to call into JP Morgan. I wouldn't have called the number on that
Yeah.
and then said,
Well,
"Hey, I got
and
a voicemail that said to reference this," and see what they said.
true. Yeah, I can see that. And that is a good tip. But they also referenced a legitimate customer name. She struggled with the customer name, but still, you got it
Yeah.
right. She got our company name correct. So it, all intents and purposes, if you're not paying attention, seems legit to me.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
the big tell for me is that you called the CEO, and I'm like, I don't do crap with money, so it ain't for me.
You're not allowed to.
Well, exactly. Thank God.
That's
But it was
interesting.
good. It was better than what I get normally.
Yeah.
What were you
Yeah.
going to say?
Oh no, I'm trying to figure out how they would have gotten a you know, I don't think it was a mistake or an accident they got a customer name, but where would they have gotten that from? Because I don't think it's referenced anywhere. That's interesting.
Yeah, somehow sent, somehow. But yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway, this particular scam voicemail didn't work. But you always have to stay vigilant, man. It doesn't matter what what job you have, what level of the organization you're in. I mean, you got to pay attention. You got to stop for a second and be like, is this unusual? Yeah. Anything that's unusual certainly should be a red flag.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, so I sent that on to our customer, and like I said, he was taken aback by it. But now it's become training material. So
Yeah. Well,
I
and
could,
for them, like, how do you protect yourself? Because if you would, let's just say, you had fallen for it, it's a reputational and financial impact potentially for them as well.
right. Yeah. Well, and what they were targeting is, certainly our payment accounts, and then you wire money, usually ACH,
Yep.
and once that money's gone, if you don't notice it and react to it quick enough, it's gone.
Yeah. And
Especially now after PPP money. This is the second round of PPP, I think, just came out.
mhm.
And I don't know if FR Secure got any, but I know lots of other companies did. It's a lot of
Yeah.
money sitting
Oh
in some
yeah.
accounts, man.
I think what's interesting was we had, I'm trying to find the note. We have an IR where it was a wire fraud, and they were able to catch the most recent one because the customer reached out and was like, "Hey, we haven't been paid," but I think they were saying that it had been going on for like months. They don't know how long this has been wrong. They were trying to figure it out. So I mean, if you think about it, even if it's not a huge amount, that's it's gone.
Right. Well, and oftentimes it is a huge amount. Oftentimes it's a combination of payments, right?
Yeah.
If your accounting department's not paying attention, and that because it's multiple fronts, right? For me getting this this voicemail, me not acting upon it,
Mhm.
right? Now assume I did have some kind of financial account access and I was actually able to make those changes anyway, which I'm not. But I forward it on to my accounting department and they go, oh, okay. And they call back and they, change those
Mhm.
numbers and what have you. Or if I had access, I could have done it myself. And then you would have gotten, invoices or
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the
they would
other
have played.
that's the other interesting thing because we don't send money to them.
It's true. I wonder if it's
Now,
so it would be a target against Centricare ultimately to get their money. Would it? Because if
I
I'm
don't.
changing the way
Yeah,
if I'm
there's
changing the
no.
way that Centricare pays me, yes, that's exactly what it is. So they call me, we change the way Centricare pays us, right? Because that's what she said she wanted to
Yeah.
do was to change the way Centricare paid us and then
I
send
wonder.
invoices to Centricare so then Centricare would pay them.
Yeah, they were trying to get our like uh, ACH number or something like that. Whatever that.
Yeah,
How that the wire transfers would work. I bet that's yeah. They were actually targeting Centricare through us because we
interesting.
don't send them money.
Right.
Well,
Well,
hopefully we don't. That's not good
well,
for business.
well, and that's what they said too was they wanted to change the way Centricare paid us.
Yeah. Huh.
So then, our invoices would go to Centricare as they normally do, but then instead of payment coming back to us, payment would go to where they changed the account to.
Yeah. Should send that over to the IR guys. They'll get a kick out
I
of it.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, all right, that was good. Be
Hmm.
careful. Be vigilant. Uh, yeah. Security people are cool because they're a little bit skeptical. Some of us take it too far and we're paranoid, but
Mm-hmm.
then paranoid's okay too, I suppose. All right. So the next topic, the thing I wanted to talk about was last week after the security shit show we did on Thursday night, we had a really good discussion about just, I don't know, kind of a quagmire of things. But after that, like immediately after that, I wrote this thing on LinkedIn about privacy because I sort of get tired about every time you see like I think I saw a Tor advertisement. Somebody was something with Tor and they said privacy is your
Mm-hmm.
right. I'm like, it's not. So and last week was privacy day. Did you miss that?
I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was an international data privacy day. It was last week, and some people say privacy is a right, and so and what I wrote was they're wrong. Privacy, and then I wrote privacy was a right, and now I'm thinking that privacy maybe wasn't even a right. Privacy was never a right. There was an expectation of privacy potentially that was a perceived right.
Well, I think you put it right. We created privacy for convenience. So if you can give up your rights, right? That's absolutely a thing. So and maybe it was a right at one point, but we've as a society have said, getting up and walking across the room is too hard. So I'm gonna give up my privacy so I can, say Alexa or whatever, do your
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's true. The technology, you know, is too convenient, too sexy that privacy is an afterthought. And by the time I realize it, we've already gone so far down this path that you got a question: can I ever get back?
Hmm.
Because we also allowed privacy, and like I posted too, we also allowed privacy to be stolen from us, oftentimes without our knowledge or consent. It's just You share information, you apply for a job, you got to give them your social security number, blah, 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 all this other stuff. You apply to school, same kind of stuff. You go to the doctor, you're sharing all kinds of information there. You're on social media, you're sharing information there. You sign up for a new credit card, you're just giving information there, on and on and on. And it's all basically out there,
Yeah.
gone.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I've talked about it before. I had my taxes were fraudulently filed in 2016. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, not through anything I did wrong, right? I had a freeze on my credit. I did all the right things, as you would say, but it was one of the like the gosh, I can't even remember. I think the Anthem breach or something at this point. Uh, right? Like, yeah. So what can you do when you don't control the stuff that is, I mean, realistically, like vital to day-to-day life?
Right. And I thought it was interesting too that it's not just digital IDs of things I share online and stuff like that, but then you've also got, 50 million, more than 50 million surveillance cameras in the United States, which is more per capita because we always say, well, China, they've, no privacy there. They got cameras all over the place. Well, it's true. They have more cameras, but they have less cameras per capita than we do in the United States.
Hmm.
I mean, is it safe then to say that, at least from this perspective, that there's less privacy in the United States than there's in China?
Yeah, I guess it would depend on what's the uh, like the breakdown, right? Are they considering the red light cameras? I would assume that would be part of it, where they probably don't have those in China, and those are in every city.
Right. Yeah, I
So
don't know.
that's interesting.
But we're heading down a path where, I mean, it's just not pretty, right? They
Yeah.
continue to install more cameras. It's not like they're taking them out.
No. Yeah.
Uh,
Very, very true. Was it? Is it? Is it? Yeah. Minority Report, where it's like pre. Hey, you had a thought that you were going to commit a crime, so we're going to arrest you before it happens.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's getting kind of scary, and this kind of dystopian uh, society. You also got to consider that your movements are tracked, if not by your mobile devices, by maybe your cars. It's
Mm-hmm.
getting more and more difficult to be able to purchase a car without, the electronics that allow people, somebody, somewhere to track. It sort of started, I think, with what was it, the OnStar? It seemed
Mm-hmm.
like one of the
Yeah.
first sort of things where we'd put electronics like this into
Yeah.
vehicles. I just saw yesterday that Ford just signed an agreement with Android, I think, to put crap into all their vehicles. I drive an F-250 that's 2015. That's purposely base sort of model. Doesn't have any of that electronic stuff in it. Still has
Yeah.
electronics, run the motor, but not tracking
Yeah.
devices and things.
Yeah. Yeah. My
Uh,
car is a little older than yours, but
well,
yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to upgrade it, man. I mean, like, I don't want. It's not that, and I know people say, uh, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. I say
That's not
BS.
the point.
Well, and BS anyway. You have my data. I don't know how you plan to use it. If
Yeah.
you're just planning to use it just to stop me from doing a crime or to investigate a crime that relates to me, okay, maybe. But the thing is oftentimes they're collecting this data and there are no rules for
Yeah.
what they get to do with the data.
That's a
Because
good
what they're
point.
what they're truly doing, I think, in a lot of places, is they're profiling me. You can start to get predictive. You can start to tell where I'm going to go and get something there before I get there
Yeah.
to maybe influence me to buy a product, uh,
Well, we know the
maybe harm me.
stores.
I don't know.
We know stores are tracking Bluetooth. Like they track how
Yeah,
you walk through the store with Bluetooth. Now, even if they don't know who you are, there's a MAC address associated with that. There's an identifier, and they can definitely start seeing that. So like, if not to pick on any store, Walmart, Target, whoever it is, but if you're, let's say you've got the store's app, they're not going to start sending you like, hey, you noticed you
Right.
walked in the door.
Right.
Here's a coupon for
Well,
a
that's
phone.
the thing. I mean, you're collecting all the data and it's not for my benefit. That's the lie, right? I think consumers and people, citizens think, well, cameras are here for my benefit. The device tracking is for my benefit. Tracking my shopping habits just makes shopping experience that much better. So it's for my benefit. It's like, no,
No,
it's not for your benefit.
no.
Even if it started as a benefit for you, it's only a matter of time before men, women, people, human beings corrupt shit.
Yeah.
You start to realize, oh my gosh, look at all this value I've got in front of me. If I used it this way, we could, realize another $100 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
are they going to do?
Well, right. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, another thing, I continue down, with the list of, certainly one or more of your government issued IDs, whether it be your driver's license, social security number, passport number, something, or all of it. We can all agree with, given the number of breaches, the expanse of breaches, the organizations that were breached, I think it's safe to assume that your government issued IDs are out there.
Yeah.
They've
Well,
already
and
been compromised.
we've talked about it before. The problem is the social security number was intended to be an identifier, not an authenticator. And it's been bastardized, and you can't use the same thing for both. Like, that's a
Right.
fundamental contradictory thing.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's really the big thing. They got to stop using social security numbers as both. It should only be an identifier. It should not be an authenticator in any way.
Right. And to that point of, may have started off for my benefit, but then you start seeing all these other potential uses for it, right? And then you start using it for other people's benefit. The social security number is a perfect example of that. It was originally designed for you to track my social security account, right? My benefits, that
Right.
sort of thing. So it was for my benefit. That was the only use. Now there were no constraints. There were no specific laws around the protection of that account thing. So then what happened? Well, we started using it to track your bank account numbers, your taxes, on and on and on. Now it's out of control.
Yeah. Well, realistically,
And
I
it's
don't have
not convenient.
well, I don't have a problem with it being used as an identifier for those other things, right? Like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to identify myself, but when it's public from a identifier standpoint, you can't use it as an authenticator as well. Like,
Right. Yeah, I take exception at both. I take exception to the fact that it is used, dual purpose for authentication and identification. That's certainly a violation of just logic. And I do take exception to using a single identifier in all these locations without specific rules,
yeah, I can see
right?
that.
The Because now if you because one of the things that we've talked about this too with biometric authentication. If whoever's collecting my biometric, whether it be a fingerprint, hand geometry, retina scan, whatever the biometric is, if the system or the device or the people behind it aren't storing data correctly, so let's
Mm-hmm.
say they're storing the entire image as opposed to the minutia of the image, right? If they do that and that image gets lost or stolen, well, now you've lost or stolen something that I cannot change.
Yeah.
And I have the same issue, the same problem with my social security. Maybe I can change it, but from what I've heard, it's like, you have a better chance of, lifting that Titanic off the bottom of the sea by
Right.
yourself.
Oh, I mean, well, like you were just saying, think about all the things you have to change. Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's almost like overwhelmingly difficult to the point of it's not worth it.
Right. Yeah. So there's that, and then certainly our online habits are tracked. Basically, everywhere you go online, and you can take some precautions to limit the damage there, but essentially, they can still build a pretty good profile, even if you have, as many blocking technologies as you have, and even if you're using Tor. People don't
Right.
realize how Tor actually works. A lot of the exit nodes for Tor are actually controlled by government and private entities.
Right.
So, so even there they can track, and people are like, "Oh, it's completely anonymous." Well,
Mm,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe. And then we have this lust, man. We keep adding more crap. We just can't seem to stop ourselves from adding more devices, adding more cool gadgets, making our homes smart.
Right.
It's like, let's define what smart is. Is smart using something without really understanding the consequences? Is smart using something without being responsible for the something you're using? Uh, yeah. So that's the privacy. That's where we're at. And when you think about National Data Privacy Day and people who assume that privacy is a right, tell me how you could ever come to that conclusion.
Yeah. Again, I think just looking or thinking about it, it's like I think it is a right, but it's one that the population in general has accepted giving up.
Yeah. So if you've given up your right, let's say that it was your right, or at least the perception of privacy was a right or something, and you have given it up to the extent that we have as a society, can you ever put the genie back in the bottle?
I don't think you can put it back, but you can stop the bleeding, as it were, right? Make changes so
Yeah.
that it's better moving forward. But what's out there is out there. You can't stop. You can't get that back, but you can stop future stuff from happening.
Right. Well, and I agree. Once data's out there, once it's exposed, it's exposed. You can't get it back. So I think your alternative then for that data is to make the data that's out there no longer valid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So take my social security number, for instance. That's the easiest one, actually, believe it or not, out of all these other things. Uh, my social security number is already lost or stolen. Some criminal somewhere, some state government, somebody has, or some, other government has it, and they'll use it whenever just because they haven't used it yet doesn't mean it's not out there.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not already in a bad person's hands. The only way I can recover that part of my digital identity is to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, it, it's crazy to think about what you would have to do. Like, think about the hassle that women have when they change their name if they get married and they change their name. Like, I know what a pain it was for my wife to do all that. And can you imagine? That's just changing a name. Like,
Right.
imagine changing this super secret number that everybody relies on, and you have every credit card, every bank account, every government function, healthcare. Like, it's so entwined that how do you do that?
Well, it takes. So I think it takes something as big and powerful as the U.S. government to do it, which is good because they're the ones who got us into this mess to begin with.
Yeah.
They're the ones who created that number. I didn't create that number. I didn't have a choice on whether or not you were going to create this number. You created it to me, shoved it down my throat, allowed everybody in the world to use it, and then it's my problem when it's abused.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a racket, and so the government would have to do it, and the government would have to design it correctly, and they've got plenty of help, right? You can reach out to. There's lots of security people in this country that'd be willing to design, I think, a pretty possibly a pretty solid solution
Right.
with specific rules when things are compromised, I have the ability to change it much quicker, right? Because now you've got all the associations built. You gotta start over.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, I think it can be done right. Like we're seeing that, I think, a little bit with CMMC, where they've learned from some of the stuff in the past, and it, it's it's a in general, it's a good standard. It's a good approach to doing this, to protecting, in this case, DoD information, but we know they can do it.
Yeah. Well, it takes work. People don't like work, and people are, I think, are distracted with so many other things going on. If you were to ask them how big of a deal this is on their list of things that the government should be focused on right now, I don't think it can make your top 10.
Oh yeah, right now, no.
But the sad thing is, though, it should be in your top 10. This is your identity. This
Well,
is who you are
yeah. Well, and
online or in all these
it
other
does
places.
impact people right now, right? Because how are they tracking vaccination? How are they tracking unemployment benefits? How are they tracking stimulus payments? All through, the social security number.
Right. Well, so what's the alternative? So let's say that we decide, it's just not worth it. It's too much work. It's going to be too expensive. You know, just don't want to embark on this. Uh, where does
Yeah.
it go? The problem doesn't go away. It doesn't get less worse. It gets worse.
Yeah.
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 Because if your social security numbers or these things are already out there and they haven't been used against you yet.
Or that you know of.
Yeah, right. And so, and I just think, if you play this through, because we play this big global chess game between, state actors like Russia, China, Israel, US, North Korea. I just saw North Korea is being ornery again. Um, we've got this chess game going on. Well, let's say China or maybe Russia or maybe both have this huge treasure trove of social security numbers related to every U.S. citizen,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's conceivable, certainly given the, like I said, the number of breaches and where things are and go. And well, that means they have the identity of every U.S. citizen. Don't you think they could use that when the time is appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't use it now because I'm not motivated by money. I want to cause instability in the financial markets. I want to do something bigger, grander.
Well, we just saw that with the solar winds and the timing of that release and chaos and everything that was going on.
Right. I just have this fear, and I think it's justified that we're sort of sitting ducks right now, and the chickens will come home to roost, and it's going to suck really bad. Not to be a downer. I mean, it's only Tuesday and all that, but I don't know. Get some silver, get some cash, crypto,
Mm-hmm.
something. Uh, because I think it just continues to go down this nasty path until we actually make a concerted, legitimate effort to reel this back in.
Yeah.
So that's that. The other thing I want to talk about was burnout. So, you talk about the work required to get this done. It's like, well, I can't put it on my plate right now, man. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're probably pretty busy too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got quite a list of things.
Right. So I started writing this blog post, and it's actually a letter. It's DCEO and head of household. And I think this was another night after the shit show a couple of weeks ago that I wrote this. And I just stumbled on it yesterday. I was like, yeah, I should post that. But it's, dear CEO and head of household, I'm tired. Before you ask why, I'll tell you, I'm tired because I work 80 plus hours a week to protect you and all you're responsible for. I'm fighting a fight I cannot win, especially without your help. I'm asking for your help, but you're not listening. We're under relentless attack, but you don't seem to care. You think it won't happen to us, and I'm afraid it already has. I'm losing the support of my family. They sacrifice time with me, and they don't understand why. You won't step up and take the time to understand what you're responsible for. I need to help you. I need you to help me solve problems, but I can't get you to participate. You think this is my responsibility, but it's not. It's yours. I tell you things with honesty and transparency, yet I don't think you trust me. We're understaffed and underfunded, but you keep telling me to do more with less. I need you to champion the cause, but you don't. But you do nothing more than tolerate it. I want to teach you about information security, but you're too smart for education. You don't see the value in me as to you. I'm nothing more than a cost center.
Yeah, I mean, that resonates, right? And that's sad.
It is. Because that stuff leads to frustration. I think frustration leads to burnout. Because if you are working long hours and you're not feeling appreciated and you're reaching out and you're trying to get people to listen and they don't, and I mean, eventually you just get to the point where you say, what's the use? I'm
Yeah.
done.
Well, and not only that, but on top of all that, you get blamed for anything that happens. And but
There
there's
you go.
never like, that's kind of the, I don't, whatever the word is, the I don't know. Anyway, it's always like everything is working, so people are like, well, what are you doing? And then if something breaks, they're like, what did you do? Why haven't you fixed it
Right.
yet? Like, you don't, if it's working, you shouldn't hear from me. That's a good thing.
Right.
But that's not how people see it. And it is absolutely frustrating.
Right. And I think, and that's maybe why our band of brothers and sisters and other genders uh, are, we're also kind of tight. We have our infighting, we do that a lot, but I know that nobody else can relate to some of the things I go through in my life other than other security people.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, that's why those things resonate. If you read those off to some other people, they'd be like, "Yeah, that all sucks, but that doesn't happen." It's like, kind of, kind of all of it does.
Yeah.
This is us. So how do you? Because I know a lot of friends, good security people over the years who have just burnt out. They just run out of gas, man. They're
Yeah.
tired of it. They figure, what's the use? I've got some money saved up. I'm just out. I'm gonna check
Yeah.
out. Have you like
Well,
that? You've always been good at balance. That's one thing I really admire about you. But do you feel those things?
oh, I mean, I've definitely felt that in the past. I don't feel them here, which is great, right? I think, and that was gonna be my answer is there's other jobs. Find one that fits you, right? That's the how you prevent it. But I've absolutely been there in the past where it's just like, I need out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, for me, uh, even though it never really stops, right? Like IT or security, you can't turn it off and go because we're 24/7 society at this point, right? So it's always kind of there. But, I think I'd really make an effort to log out, as it were, for the day and shut off the work brain for that period between, five-ish and the kid's bedtime, right? Try and be there for them and not focus on work. If I work after that, no big deal. Or if I work, earlier in the morning when they're still asleep, and then, not really a big deal because I'm not there that 20 minutes of getting ready for school that I would see them. But it's so easy to just get overwhelmed and sucked in and totally consumed.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, I've definitely worked in places where it's been like that. You know, it would be such a tragedy to me personally if the companies that I run ended up like this, if we had people feeling like this, you know what I mean? What a just a shitty. This is part of our mission too, right? To not be this, to not
Right.
get here, to support each other, to make sure that we don't burn out. We do a lot of work, but we can do a lot of work without burning out.
Right.
You know?
Well, and going back to the executive level, I mean, every one of them has been in that position too, and they're all, as far as I can tell, every one of them is committed to exactly that, like not having that happen here.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a value in just human beings here, which is really cool. I was talking with John last week, and it hit home with me because we had a meeting. I think it was kind of an impromptu one, or maybe it was like Tuesday. And for the listeners, John's the president of FR Secure, and I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? And he's like, I'm burnt.
Hmm.
I'm like, so we talked a little bit about that, talked about other topics, but then before we left, I was like, so what are you going to do about that? He's
Right.
like, do about what? I'm like, being burnt. He goes, oh, I'm taking the afternoon off, to go to Top Golf. I'm like, awesome, man. I love that because uh, you got to keep the stuff in balance, man. It gets out of whack quick.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I've worked at home before, but like that a big thing that's changed is people haven't, right? They're not used to it, and it's easy to get burnt because you're never leaving. So, I at my office, I get dressed and not just wearing sweats or whatever. I get dressed for the day. And when the day is over, I go and have make a committed commute, as it were, a transition. And I'll
Mhm.
go and change into, sweats and whatever. So that there is a delineation between, hey, you're at work and
Mhm.
now you're at home. And
Right.
it seems kind of silly or simple, but it makes a difference, right?
For
Like
sure.
you're losing that commute to decompress and change and transition. At least, I don't have that 20-25 minutes anymore, but still making that like
Yeah.
definite, like,
Well, that's a big reason why uh, I do. I have to do vacations because if I'm anywhere near my office or my workstation, I'm going to work. I don't have the same kind of self discipline. Um, I did a lot of work this weekend, and it's not so much that it's going to burn me out because um, work is almost like my hobby too. It's like I just genuinely enjoy doing it. I love doing stuff like this, but then when you realize that my wife is sacrificing time with me,
mhm.
my children are sacrificing time with me, when you realize how, for me, if I'm working the way I would, it's a real selfish thing. And that also comes back to haunt you when you get up from the office or you get up from your home office and I walk on the other side of the door and I'm like, where'd everybody go?
Yeah,
Well, they got on with their day without you because you were so focused on work. They're either in bed, they went out to eat, they did some of these things, and that's when it dawns on you, like, I'm really alone right now. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That also contributes to burnout. You can't do that
Oh,
very often.
yeah. Well, it goes back to the self-care, right? And
Yeah,
you now have set up the your office, right, in one of the spare bedrooms. So you're not
yeah,
just like in the living room or the couch. Like for me, I close the doors to the office when I leave. Right, I have the doors that I have are glass, right, so you can see through them. And I ended up putting the static, like frosted cling whatever on it, so that I can't even see in.
yeah.
Like if I
That's
walk
good.
by, it's there. It's these little tricks to like make yourself, like this weekend. I had been working some stuff on Friday, and I was really into it, and it was tough to not be like spend all weekend kind of geeking out on some of this stuff and working on it, but it's like, no, I want to spend some time with the family. And
Yeah.
so it does take self-control, because it's so easy to just get consumed.
Right.
Especially so many of us are so passionate about what we do too. And
Yeah.
that doesn't help in this
No,
situation.
if you combine the passion with the, I really love doing this shit, then
Yeah.
it becomes like, oh God, here we go. So yeah, and I think so. I'll post this this blog post maybe today, and maybe we can even pick it up some more next next week, because it's one of those topics that you could just do a podcast on this, right?
Mhm.
Just on burnout. So it's to give it only 10, 15 minutes every 20, 30, 40 episodes, because we have talked about it before. It just doesn't do it justice, right? Listeners need to hear it again and again. These are habitual things that we need to address. So
Yeah.
that's right. On to news before we wrap this thing up. I think it's been a kind of an action-packed, or a lot of stuff in this episode, which is cool. First one I've got is from ESET, WeLiveSecurity.com, and the article is Apple patches 3 iOS 0 days under attack. If you have not patched your iOS devices, do it. Your watches, your Apple TVs, your
Mhm.
iPads, your iPhones, they're all affected. Patch them.
Yeah. Well, and gosh,
So
I mean, well, just think about how widespread that is.
right. Well, you can't say you didn't hear it, right? These 3 0 days are being actively exploited in the wild. I think one of them for sure is a 0 click, so you don't have to do anything for the attacker to exploit the vulnerability. So update. I think 14.4 is the latest version on iPhones and iPads. So, and if you don't know how to do that, open up your iPad, iPhone, go to settings. Right at settings, you'll do
Is it like,
general,
yeah, check for
and then
update?
you'll do software update. Yep. And it goes checking for update, and it says iOS 14.4, your software is up to date. That's because I'm a security guy. I patch my stuff.
Yeah.
You should too. All right. So that's that. Patch, you got no excuses now. You heard it.
No.
And I thought this next one was sort of interesting. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. It's from securityintelligence.com, which I think might be IBM's blog. But the title is CISO Success. It's about more than tech skills. I want to go through the whole article here. There's nothing revolutionary here. If you've been in this industry for a while, if you've been in leadership for a while, none of it is like earth shattering. We've been
Mhm.
preaching lots of these things. The one thing that's kind of refreshing is I like the way the author, George Platsis, laid things out. But the best CISOs I've met in my career are not expert technologists. They are expert leaders. They're expert lovers of their teams. They're just really good people.
Yeah. And
Um,
that doesn't mean that you can't have a good one that is a tech expert, but I think it's those other skills that are far more important and are what make you successful or not. I mean, the technology is almost uh, a, a bonus, I guess, or kind of secondary, tertiary skill.
right.
It might make you better at it, but it's not going to make you good at it.
And I've almost found a few CISOs come to mind that were actually not good technologists. They were really good leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was almost worked out to their benefit because they were humble. They were more humble. They have a
Well,
big tech ego.
yeah, that's the big thing. I think like I said, being successful in that role doesn't like, you don't have to be a tech geek to be successful. You have to have those other
Right.
skills to be successful. Doesn't mean if you are, really technology focused or have that background, you can't be successful, but you have to have those
Right.
other skills to be successful. It's a kind
100%.
of a
Yep.
very,
So,
very fine line on that. I think like,
yeah. Yeah. And, you know, some of us have learned that. I mean, some of us learned that the hard way. I've seen CISOs learn that way. Because
yeah,
the more, if you don't have those other soft skills, going back to the burnout thing, you just accelerate that process too, because nobody
yeah.
understands what you're talking about. Nobody wants to work with you. Yeah, it's tough. All right. The last one I've got is from ZDNet. The title is Ransomware Gangs Now Have Industrial Targets in Their Sites. That raises the stakes for everyone.
You knew it was just a matter of time. We've seen a lot of manufacturers in those kind of what you would consider, I guess, non-traditional targets, but we've seen quite a few manufacturers or along those lines being targeted.
Yeah.
Engineering firms, those kind of, you would think typically healthcare and banking or finance, but you're seeing others.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is another thing, man, it's a when you look at some of our infrastructure, it's such a massive thing. Like take a look at,
Mhm.
the way the electrical grid works
Oh
across the
yeah,
country and how they connect to each other and all this other stuff. It's like, wow, that's complex. You wonder if at some point we're just going to have to buck up and just redesign the whole damn thing
yeah.
and, and build it right. Build it with security built in, build it with resilience. There are still places, significant points of failure where you can't patch a computer because you'll bring power down. There's
Right. Oh
no
my gosh.
redundancy, so they sit there with an XP system.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we've seen it with where the SCADA systems are like, well, no, we can't take it down. There's no, we
Right?
can't. It's like,
Yeah.
well, fingers crossed then.
Well, and the thing is like the logic is either you take it down in a planned manner, in a controlled manner, or the attacker will take it down for you.
Hmm.
Which do you prefer? I'd
Yeah.
rather do it myself, like notify all my customers, hey, we're going to have a power outage for, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, make it during the day when it'll be
Well, I
a
mean,
Saturday. I mean, somewhere when there's least load than other
yeah.
times.
Well, I mean, you've got California for sure. Like, you get the rolling brownouts.
Right.
Like, okay, well, why not do that so you can update this stuff?
Exactly.
It's an inconvenience, yeah. What's a bigger inconvenience? That being ransomed?
Right. Yeah. It's 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days.
Hmm.
All right. Well, good, man. That's it for episode 117. Good talk, man. It's always a good talk with you. It actually wakes me up. I came into this podcast like dragging ass a little bit, but I'm kind of fired up and ready to kick some
Well,
ass.
and hopefully the listeners can tell the last, what is this, the third or fourth one? I think it's the fourth one where we kind of went away from the scripted piece. It's just talking.
Yeah.
I think
I
it,
might put show notes out still, but I won't do the script. I'll just put topics.
yeah, yeah, because I don't know. I think it's more fun not
Flows
knowing where
better.
this is gonna go.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You didn't know the topics until you jumped on the
Well,
conference.
yeah, Yeah, somebody was asking me about we were going to do a webinar, and they're like, it's really high level, and it's like, are you okay with that? I'm like, dude, I do a podcast where I don't find out what we're talking about until I get on. Like, yeah, I'm
Exactly.
totally good with just going with the flow, and
Uh-huh. Yeah, me too. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you to our listeners. Send us things. Oh, crap. That reminds me. It's on my task list. So for any of the listeners, we got some email, man. I went into Proton Mail. I was like, oh, crap. We promised people books. I got to get those books sent
oh,
out. Yeah. So there you go. I will be checking, and I'll put it on my task list to do that regularly. So send us things by email. We promise to reply. Send us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you are the social type, you can certainly socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Evan Francine. Brad is at Brad Nye. Lastly, well, actually, shout outs. Brad, you got a shout out for anybody?
um, hmm. You know, don't.
No.
I'm trying to think.
Brad, it's
I,
now official.
I,
Brad appreciates nobody.
well, we just had a potential reverse shell pop on one of the IRs, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
a little distracted just now. Sorry. Um, uh, gosh, you know, silly as it seems, just all the kind of the back end people at FR Secure that have
Yeah.
just made my job so much easier. You know, like the marketing people where I don't have to write a full blog post. I can just do what we're doing and talking, or you know,
Yeah.
operationally with like our uh, the our resource manager, customer success manager, project manager team. Those just all the stuff that they do, and so you kind of see
That's cool.
what they're doing, and it's like, wow, yeah, that makes it, having to do some of it or whatever. It's like, whoa, yeah, they really make my life easier. So
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm going to give a shout out. I don't think I've ever done this before on, certainly on the podcast. But a shout out to my son, Joe. Uh, I'm just amazed at how good quality of character that kid has. When you raise kids, you just want them to be better than you were. And, Joe is definitely that. He came over this weekend and just a great kid. I'm very, very proud of him.
I'll say I've heard nothing but good things from a work perspective as well.
Yeah. I don't know
Very
what
well.
stars must have crossed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. My kids do that, and I'm like, you what? I'm okay. You sure you're mine? What?
Right. Right. Well, I told Joe too, I told all my kids, when I raised them, your dad set the bar pretty low for you. Meaning, there were things like if you can just like not, because my past is troubled, I was a rebel, man. If you could just not get arrested until after the age of 14, you already surpassed that bar. Right. So, those bars were low. And then, I started pushing the bar up as I got older. But anyway, lastly, we do have companies we work for, and Security Studio is at Studio Security. So they've been posting a lot of stuff, and then FR Secure, always good stuff there. I want to remind listeners about the CISSP Metro program we heard yesterday morning. 2,163, I think, registrations, which surpassed all of 2020. Looks like we might hit 5,000, so that's pretty
I
damn
mean,
cool.
we there's a good chance we're going to have more this year than combined previous.
It's awesome, man.
That's
I love it. Helping people, man, serving people. That's what we do. All right, brother. You have a good one.
all right. You too.
All right.